This is Abby Kadabi, and I'm continuing my series of videos on Embird Editor, and I'm still focusing on the toolbars and drop-down menus. And today I'm going to be discussing the insert and option drop-down menus. So let's go ahead and get started. So under insert, the first thing is this emoji, and I have yet to figure out how it works or what it's supposed to do, but you can and it allows you to, I think this might be a title or something, but you can put something, words in there, or you can put text down here, and you can change your font here. And so I had selected this courier, but I could like select Dubai, and then I could click OK. And I think what I typed here was let's have fun. And so I clicked on this laughing emoji. And so I thought I was going to get this emoji and my text, but that's not what I ended up with. I just end up with a image that says let's have fun, and there's no emoji or anything with it. So I'm not sure how that works. And so the only way I have found to delete this is to go to image and click none and don't save. And then I need to make sure that I'm back on my normal tab. So then the next thing under insert is text. And this is referring to the Embird plugin text. It's not referring to any text or fonts that you purchase from like Etsy or maybe some other digitizer's website. So you can click on text here and it will open your text panel. And uh, if you click on the down caret, then you can see the different texts that are available. And so the ones with the red X's I have not purchased, but these fonts have a lot of capabilities and you can do different things with them. And so you can click on whichever text you want. And in the text box, you type what you want, and then you have your um, properties panel here. And so you can change your size of your design or your text, I should say. You can keep your aspect ratio the same. So since I have a 5x7 hoop, I would want this design a little narrower because this is closer to 6 inches. So I'm going to make this 130. And so when I changed my width to 130, it did adjust my height. I could adjust the density, I can adjust the pole compensation, and you can change the angle. And there's other things you can adjust gaps between letters here, and you can change the underlay on your letters. And you can also save this lettering object, and that sometimes is important, especially if you're doing a project and you want to use this same font with the same settings over and over again, but you might not be doing it all at one sitting, and so that it will bring back in your, you can open up the lettering file that you saved, and it'll bring in the exact font you used in your settings, and you can proceed from there. Under Layout tab, this shows how the letters are going to be spaced when you click the OK button and they come out onto your work table. And right now, these look fairly well spaced. But if one letter was like encroaching on another letter, like if my A was like that, and sometimes that can happen, I could move it back just like I moved it forward by putting my cursor on the little button in front of the letter. And if you do the first letter here, it moves the whole word. And so you can move the whole word like that. You can increase the spaces between your letters by clicking the gap button, and I'm increasing it by clicking the up button. And as you see, my letters are getting further apart, and then I can decrease it and it'll go back. You can change how the font is sitting. So right now it's in a line, but I could put it on a curve or a circle. And so it kind of defaults to a circle with 180 millimeter width and 180 millimeter height. So I'm going to change that down to about 90. And so now my circle's much smaller. And, it still looks okay, but it's not centered. So I'm just going to click on the red button here with my left mouse button, and I'm going to kind of roll it back and forth until my A looks pretty um, horizontally across from my Y. And if I'm happy with that, I can click OK, and it will load it onto my work table. And so there's my name curved. And if I wanted to make like something circular, I could use the text um, again, and I could keep my settings exactly the way they are. And I would click place on the inside. And so now my letters are on the inside, but they're upside down, and I want them on the, usually I want them on the, I'm not grabbing it right. There we go. And so I can grab it and bring it around. And as you see, when I zoom in here, my letters are all kind of scrunched together now. um, and like the B's are kind of and the Y's touching. So I would want to increase the gap here a little bit to get a little space between those letters so that they're easy to read. And then I have to adjust my positioning again. And so if I was happy with that, and I might also make my circle just a little bit smaller, because I found that when you put letters on the inside of the circle, that they don't come out quite at the same arc. And so then and I went too far, but you get the picture. And so you can just play around with that until it comes out closer to how you want. And then there's other features under alphabet, which I'll go to in more detail when I do a video that's specifically talking about the plugin alphabets. So I'm going to delete this and go to my trash can, select the next one and go to my trash can. And then the next thing is um, font engine and ready-made alphabet text. And these are tied together. And font engine is a separate plugin. It's a separate purchase above the cost of basic Embird. So I'm not really going to go into font engine and what ready-made alphabet text is. If you do buy um, an alphabet or a font from uh, a private digitizer, or maybe it's a company that does digitizing, and you don't want to have to bring in your letters one at a time to position them. You can map your letters using the ready-made alphabet text feature, and you have those links to these add-ons right here where it says insert font engine and insert ready-made text. One thing I'll just show you real quickly, though, is if you have a lot of fonts from a website, you can go to open, and instead of clicking on open, click on merge, and then go to wherever you keep your fonts. And so mine are under ABC, and I have lots of fonts from Jolson's. I'm not promoting them. It's just that I have a lot of theirs. And so I'll click on that, and then I will click, and so then pick that. And then what I would do is if I was going to put my name in here, I'd click on the A, and I'd hold the control button down, and I would click the B, and then I'd scroll down and click the lowercase y and click OK. And it brings all the letters in. And I have my three objects over here. And so I'm going to click on the A in my objects order panel. And I can bring my A over here. And then I'll click on my B. And so then I'll bring that one in. And then I'm clicking on my Y, and I'm going to move that a little bit to the right because I want to click on my B again. And I'm just going to do a copy and paste. And so now I have my letters, and I really didn't go to a lot of effort to bring those in. It wasn't like going back and forth a million times. So I just wanted to show you that little trick. And then the next thing under options, oh, I was under insert, excuse me, is simple outline text. And again, I'm not sure if this is under basic Embird or not, but I'll go ahead and show it to you. And so it allows you to have some very small, simple text. And so you can pick different fonts. You can type in your name here. And so you can see it's showing this in my hoop, and it's very, very small. So it's telling me the width is only 8.8 millimeters and the height is 3.2. So I might want to bump that up a little bit. Actually, it's going down. These buttons are kind of close. And so I have keep aspect ratio checked. And so when I change one, the other one changes accordingly. And then because this is such a small font, I have my stitch length at 2. And because I only want one layer, because 2 layers would be pretty heavy. And then you can choose from double stitch or triple stitch. And for something this small, I'd probably just do a double stitch. And so I'm going to click OK. And there's my name. And you can see how teeny tiny it is. And there have been times that I wish I had a teeny tiny font like this, because I did like a embroidery of an automobile, and it had a very small little license plate on the front, and I just wanted to put the year of the license plate on that, uh, the year that the car was made on that license plate, and I struggled finding a font that was small enough that would look good when I embroidered it. So other functions under this insert simple text, you can, there's script fonts. I think number 4 is a script. Maybe it was 3. Yes, 3 was a script, so I could click OK. And so then it writes your name out in script, or whatever word you put there. It doesn't have to be your name. And then one other thing that I just will show you, there are different styles of stitches that you can pick. And so when you look under where it says double stitch here, you can click down here, and it has like chain diamonds and triple stitch and some ellipses and squares and circles. So I'm just going to try the chain diamond, and I do know that I have to, it looks better if I use a regular print font, and I have to increase my size of my font significantly. So I want the width of my font to be about maybe 100 at least. So I'm going to look and see what it looks like. It looks okay. And so then if I'm happy with that, then one thing I might do before I click OK is I think my letters are spaced a little far apart. So I'm going to decrease my gap. And so I'm going to put a negative number here. So I'm going to put -10 and see what happens. Okay, and then my letters did come up, look closer. So when I click OK, so there's my name using the um, chain triangle, and it looks pretty neat, I think. So kind of a fun little feature to use. So I'm going to move on from this. And so then the next thing is Celtic knot text. And again, you can put in your name, and it, even though I put in lowercase letters, it reverted to uppercase letters. And I think there's close to 400 different Celtic knot patterns that you can choose from. So I'm going to try this number 460, and then I can change the type of Celtic knot stitch that I want. And there's a lot of different patterns here, but I'm just going to keep with kind of a traditional. So I'll click this one here. And so then there's other settings here that you can adjust. And I'm going to just go ahead and click OK. And so there's my name in a Celtic knot pattern. And so you might like to play with that at some time. So I'm going to move on. And the next things here are Insert Studio Next or sfumato Next, Studio or sfumato Design, and sfumato Stitch design, the old version, and cross stitch. These are just links to those programs. And so you can click on the link to open those programs from your insert drop down menu, or you have them right here as icons on your main toolbar. So you have the one for Studio Next, and then you have the one for just plain sfumato, and the old version of sfumato, and the cross stitch plugin. And then the next two things I'm not going to discuss because the first one's obsolete, and the next one has to do with using the cross stitch in plugin. So I'm not going to discuss that. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring in a design. And so go back to my fish folder. So I have my fish in my work table here, and when I go to insert, I can use this tie on and tie off stitch feature, and I'm not really going to get into this right now because it has to do with editing your design, and if you remove stitches, or maybe if you cropped out a portion um, of a design, you might be left with stitches that don't have any tie-ons or tie-offs, so you can add them by using this, but you can also do that when you use the stitch editing mode. And then the next feature is insert or remove codes. And so there's a lot of different uh, codes that you can remove or insert. You can change running stitches to floating stitches, or floating stitches to running stitches, or you can tell it to put in a floating stitches um, after a stop. Um, if the stitch is longer than, and you can specify the length of that stitch, you can remove all stops. If you remove all stops, then you're going to have a monochromatic design because it's not going to stop for a color change. And so you can insert a stop before each floating stitch. So there's just a lot of different options here. These last three, I don't know what they are. I haven't heard of a sequence code, a border code, or a clamp inversion code. So I have never used those, so I can't talk about those. And then your next one is to insert a basting box, and Embird gives you 6 versions of basting boxes that you can insert. And so I just use the default square one, and I set my stitch length at 6, and I keep my border offset at like 2 or 3 millimeters, and that's how far away from my selection box it's going to actually stitch my um, basting box. And then I keep my layer at 1 because I only want it to go around one time when it does the basting, and I selected a single stitch, so I click OK, and you can see my selection box did jump out a little bit. And if I deselect it, you can and I scroll in here, you can see the basting box is the blue line. And if you look in your objects order panel, you have the basting box as your first object, and then your design. I usually just use the basting box feature that comes on my embroidery machine. You can also insert cross-reference lines, and I'm not really sure what the purpose for these is because these are stitched cross-reference lines. And so if you click on it, you can set an offset, and you can set the stitch length, and you can change it from a single stitch to multiple other things. So I'm just going to leave it at single, and I'm going to click OK. And as you see, if I hide my fish, that I have a stitched guidelines, both vertical and horizontal. So these might be helpful if you were going to maybe be bringing in a design that was maybe on your embroidery machine and you don't have it on your computer, and you want to be able to use these guidelines to help in positioning it. I'm not really sure what the benefit of this guideline is. So, but I do know it's something you'd probably want to rip out. So anyway, so I'm gonna remove that. And the next thing under insert is small cross. and I'm not going to demonstrate that right now because about the only time I use small crosses is I'm going to be using the endless hoop, and I will do a separate video on that. And then you have background fill, object fill, fractal, fabric flattening stitches, and I'm going to jump over this one, and then aligning stitches, contours, and effect, and I will be doing separate videos on all of those. I will demonstrate fabric flattening stitches just quickly, so you have to have your design activated in order to have that as an option to choose. And what a fabric flattening stitch is, you use it when you're going to maybe um, embroider on something that is furry or has a definite um, nap to it, or like a terry cloth towel or something like that. So you can, you only have two choices, and your choices are a rectangle or a square. So I'm going to check rectangle, and I'm going to click inflate of 2. I'm wondering where my design went. Maybe it's up here. I just don't see it. Let me figure out what's going on here. I'm just going to do an undo. Okay, and I'm going to do an undo. Okay, there's my design. Okay, so I'm going to go back to doing the fabric flattening stitches. So I'm going to go back. Oh, I have to select it again. And so I'm going to insert and fabric flattening stitches, and I'm going to use a rectangle. And so then it's asking me how much of an inflate I want. Again, it's just like your basting box. How far away from um, the edge of the fish do you want your rectangular box to start? So I'm going to click OK, and then you have your choice between all these different kinds of options. You can do a fill, you could use a fractal, you could use a contour. I wouldn't put a Celtic knot or maybe cross stitch behind there. You could use a mesh, they're kind of pretty. So you could, I'm just going to do a standard fill. And so then this parameter box opens up, and the first thing I'm going to adjust is the density, because I just want this as a light layer of stitches beneath my fish, and I don't want it to add a lot of um, dense stitching, and density has an inverse relationship. So if I'll just use the grid lines here on the background to explain it. And so density is the distance between two parallel lines, and it's the stitch, how many stitches will stitch between those two parallel lines. So if the parallel lines are, in this case, are at 10 millimeters, then that would be your density. But if you changed your grid, and I can do that by going to options. Let me cancel this. I can go to options, and I can change my grid density, and I'm going to change it to 5. And I go back to options. Oh, insert it was fabric flattening, rectangle. Okay, fill. Okay, so now I have in the same 10 millimeter space, I have two 5 millimeter sections. So now I have a density of 5, which means I have stitches going from this line to the 5 millimeter line, and then from the 5 millimeter line to the 10 millimeter line. So I have twice as many stitches in the same 10 millimeter space than I did when I had the density of 10 millimeters. So a higher number is fewer stitches, and a lower number is more stitches. So to change your density, I'm going to left click on the 4 and just hold my button down, and it goes up pretty quickly. And I want a density somewhere around, oh, I'm going to guess around 12. And it's kind of a guess. And then I kind of look at my um, design, and I try to determine which way the majority of my stitches are running. So I have a lot right here in the black. They're going horizontal, and I have some that are kind of on an angle on this black tail, and here they're horizontal. So I think I want something that's going to run in this direction. So I'm going to grab this little cursor, and I'm going to just, with my left mouse button, and I'm going to move it around, and so it's kind of like that. And then I'm going to come down here to where it says plain fill, and I usually just pick fill 1 or 2, so I'll pick 2. And then you want to uncheck your edge, your zigzag, both of these zigzags, because these are for underlay, and I don't want underlay under my fabric flattening stitches because that's just going to make it look messy. So I'm going to click OK, and so then it gives you this rectangular box, and it really didn't start at 2 millimeters, but it's right up close. And so that's how it would look. And actually it's stitched underneath it, which is not what I wanted. There's ways to eliminate that, but and how I can tell that it's stitched underneath. I can hide all colors, and see I have a full box here. And I would probably have done a contour instead, and then it would have just stitched around the fish. But that's a whole nother video on just using all those different features there. So then I'm going to move on, and let's see. And I said all these others I was going to do separate videos on. So now I'm going to move to options. And so you have your options of your hoop size, and you can change your hoop size from this drop down menu, or you can go to the hoop icon and click on it. And when Embird first installs, it's set at all on this filter here in the bottom bottom right corner. And so you notice that every hoop is listed here, at least all the ones from manufacturers whose names start with a B, and they're all bold. So if I go down a couple pages, and um, I use these, it says standard 1, 2, 3, 4. I refer to these as pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then I'm into the Janome hoops, and then if I go a little bit further, then I get into some Pfaff hoops and Singer hoops, and on page 5, then I'm finally hitting some Viking hoops. So anyways, you just need to learn under which page that the majority of your hoops are listed, and um, uh, you can filter that by selecting whatever brand machine you have. So if you have a Bernina, it will now gray out all these other hoops, and so they're not quite as obvious. So if I go back to page 1, the Bernina hoops are still in a darker print, but the brother hoops and everything else on this page that doesn't pertain to Bernina is grayed out. So if I bring my cursor up over one of these bolder hoops, then it tells me, this little window pops up, and it tells me that this is a Bernina Artista small 72 by 50 millimeter hoop in the horizontal position. And if I come down here, wait a minute, oh, I guess that was horizontal, and this one's backwards. And if I come down here and click over here, then it's in the vertical position. All the others, the verticals are on this side. That's the only one I've noticed that it's backwards like that. So anyways, so it makes it just easier for you to select your hoop. So Brother, Viking, and Pfaff all make 100 by 100 hoop, and so there's only one 100 by 100 hoop listed in all of these pages, and it's under this combo setting here, and it's highlighted because I selected a brother, and Bernina makes share a lot of hoops, so it tells you it's a baby lock Bernina, brother, Viking, and Pfaff hoop. So they actually consolidated it here, and so then if I pick a Viking for Viking, then this next one becomes bold, and it tells me that it's a baby lock brother Viking Pfaff 130 by 180 in vertical position, and I would just click in the circle in front of it if I wanted a vertical orientation to my hoop, or if I wanted the horizontal, I would click that, and then I would click OK, and my hoop would change to a horizontal position. So you have your icon for your hoop here on your main toolbar, and you get the exact same options as you do under the drop-down menu. The next thing is hoop color, and you can adjust your hoop color. So if you're working on a design that maybe has a lot of pale pinks or very light blue or even tans, and you're trying to do editing and you just can't really see what you're doing because the colors just kind of fade in there, you might want to change your hoop color. So you double click with your left mouse button and you can select a different color of hoop. So let's say you had you wanted it to make it pink, and that would be pretty bright. So you can use this little cursor here and move up on this color wheel here, and you can do that and then click OK, and then your interior of your hoop workspace becomes pink. And then you can also um, change the hoop color from your hoop icon here. It's right here. And so I have my pink hoop, and you might decide you want different colors for your grid lines. And so I'll pick black. And so then my grid lines turn black. And so now they're much more obvious. And then the last thing, and I don't know why you'd want to do this, but you can change this navy blue boundary and you can make that a different color. So maybe you could make it bright pink if you wanted to be color coordinated. And so make it bright pink. And so that's your hoop that you could work with. If you don't like those colors, you can come back to your hoop color and click on set default and click OK. And then it'll go back to the default colors. One thing I did want to mention while I'm talking about hoop sizes, and I forgot, there's this clear hoop history. Um, I don't know how this happens, but some people set a preferred hoop, and so the program will only let them work with that one size hoop. And like one lady, she was stuck with using um, like a hoop at all. And so she had this huge hoop and she couldn't get back to a smaller size hoop. And she was just really frustrated. And so she went on a Facebook group and I told her about how to clear her hoop history, and that solved her problem. And she was thrilled. It was just such a simple fix. So I just wanted to go over that. The next thing is hoop grid, and hoop grid or hoop density is not on the main toolbar. So you can click there, and as I was using the grid as my example for discussing about density, I left it at a setting of 5, but the default is 10. So I'll change it back to 10, and it just goes back to 10, and it's pretty easy. And then the next option is selection color. And I don't know why you would pick this. And I'm not even sure why it's here and what it's doing. So I'm just going to skip that because you wouldn't want to use this to select thread colors with, because you'd want to select your thread colors from the thread selection menu. So, and I will get into how to change your colors and everything when I do my editing video. And so then you have join same consecutive colors. And right now it's unchecked. And so I'm going to bring back all my colors here and I'm going to show all colors. And so if I wanted to change this gray color chip here in my objects order panel, I could left click on this pale yellow that's right next to it and change it to pale yellow. And I'm going to set it as identical. So these two colors are the exact same colors. It's um, Madeira Rayon 1267 Banana Yellow, and they're both the 1267 by Madeira Rayon. And so what was going to happen here, because I did not have join same consecutive colors selected, your machine's going to stitch the white, and then it's going to stitch the brighter yellow, and then it will stitch this pale yellow, and then it's going to stop, and it's going to tell you need to change your thread, but it's going to tell you to put the pale yellow in again. So it's just adding an extra stop here that you don't need. So if I click on change consecutive colors, and I do an undo and put that back to gray. And so now if I click on this pale yellow and change the gray to pale yellow again, they join together and I only have the one color. So I have the white, the bright yellow, and then one pale yellow. So I always keep join consecutive colors checked. The next is measure in millimeters, and I normally keep my work field in millimeters. I do change it occasionally to inches, and the only reason I do that is so if I'm trying to make sure if I've resized a design or I've combined as a design and I want to know exactly how many inches this might be, then I can select it and then I can look down here in my status bar and it's going to tell me it's 3.72 by 3.68 inches. And so that's really the only reason I ever put it in inches. So I'm going to change that back to millimeters. Stitch density, long floating stitches, and long running stitches are all part of editing. And so I will be doing separate videos on that. This add jump to first stitch is always checked by default. Even if you uncheck it, it's going to come right back. And basically it just adds a jump stitch to your first stitch. And then this add back to origin stitch, and I keep that unchecked because what that means is that once it stitches out your whole entire design, let's say your last stitch is here, it's going to come back and um, bring a jump stitch back to the very first stitch, wherever that might have been. And the next is add aligning stitches automatically. And I've clicked on this numerous times and I don't see any aligning stitches. So I'm not sure what they're referring to. So I just leave it unchecked. I don't know exactly what it means. And then the last thing is offer auto split option. And so for people who have only maybe a 4x4 or 5x7 hoop and they have are limited in the size of embroidery designs that they can purchase, they may want to do something that would fit in a larger hoop. So if you check offer auto split option here, it will give you suggestions on how to split your design so that you could use that design if you did rehooping. I just realized that under options, I did not discuss animate changes, so I did want to go over that with you. And what animate changes does is right now I want it checked. And so when I select an object and I move it around, my object moves with my selection box and it moves very smoothly. Whereas if I uncheck animate changes and I go to move my object, what happens is the selection box will move first and then the fish jumps to it and it's not that nice smooth transition. So I would recommend keeping animate changes selected. So that pretty much covers both insert and options. I hope you gain some information from my video, and I hope you stay tuned for my next video where I'm just going to go briefly over the rest of the topics on the main upper toolbar. So I hope you have a good day. Bye.